Thursdays. I'm Nicole Roberts Jones, your Bankroll, your brains expert. Excited to be here with you every Thursday at 12 p.m. for 30 minutes of actionable insight to really help you start or grow your business and really even to create multiple streams of income from what you already know. So today our conversation is there's a fight to be you. Now, before I get into that conversation, there's a couple things you got to know. So every Thursday when I come to you, it's from one of three sections. Either number one, what's your brilliance, your purpose, the one thing God created you to do or be. The second is a value tied to it. And the third area that we talk about here on Bankroll Your Brains Thursdays is how to create multiple streams of revenue. Now, listen, the conversation that I hear the most questions about or people overlook is around your brilliance. And so that's why I called this segment, There's a Fight to Be You. Now, again, before I start going in, a couple things. Number one, say hello. You guys know how I am. Those of you that are with me every week don't come in the house and not speak. Number two, I'm pre recording this because, can I tell you a secret? I'm in the middle of moving, right? Yay. So I'm closing escrow as you're watching this. Yay. So that's the only reason I'm recording today. And so I miss you, but I will be coming back to look at every single comment. Okay. So, with that said, I'm beyond excited to be here because here's what I know for sure. Many of you do not realize that God put you here on assignment. Mhm. See, there's a group of people that need that gift in you. And so, if you don't fight for the dominion that is your birthright, and I talked about this a couple weeks ago on another live I did, not here in Black Doctor, but I really need you to understand this. Let me say this first. Genesis 1:28 talks about, and I didn't have this planned out, my Bible's nowhere near me. It says to be fruitful, multiply, have dominion. And God, it's a conversation God is having with Adam. And really, I need you to understand that God created all of us to be fruitful, multiply, and have dominion. You can't get fruitful and multiply. You can't get to those two without understanding that you have dominion. See, God created you with a specific arena to dominate in. That's why you have a natural propensity to that you're good at certain things, that you excel at certain things, that you love certain things. Yeah, that's a part of your DNA, your distinct natural ability. And I need you to understand there's a fight to be you because the enemy doesn't want you to dominate. One of my favorite Bible verses is John 10:10. Look these Bible verses up, by the way. Now, we all know this part. I've come that you have life and have it more abundantly, which is from my foundational Bible verse for what I talk about here on Bankroll Your Brains Thursdays. Again, Jesus said it. I've come that you have life and have it more abundantly. But the first part of that same Bible verse says, the enemy comes to kill, to steal, and to destroy. See, he wants to kill, steal, and destroy your dominion. He wants to kill, steal, and destroy the arena God created you to dwell in. And so that's why there is a fight because it's not going to be easy. So if you've been in business for years and you feel like you're in a fight, welcome. Because the enemy doesn't want you to dominate in it, right? Those of you that haven't started because you're looking for the easy way, you don't want to go through hard. Yeah, you'll never be successful. Listen, it takes a risk to be successful. Don't believe me? Look at Oprah. She could have stayed. First of all, when she had her first TV job, her first boss told her she wasn't ready for TV. Wonder where that boss is now, right? So not only did she continue and stayed clear, but then she went on to start her TV show. We all know about the Oprah show. But even when she knew it was time for her to do her next and left the Oprah show. Now listen, she didn't leave the Oprah show because the ratings were bad. She was successful in her show when she left. And yet she had this rumble inside of her for more. And I'm sharing this with you because I know many of you come to these segments because just like Oprah, just like Tyler Perry, just like Beyonce, there is more for you to do, which requires a risk. And think about what a risk is. It's not knowing what is going to be on the other side of it. So when she started the OWN network, it bombed the first year. Do y'all remember that? It was horrible. But she didn't quit. She stayed in it. She got help. She got coached. And look at the Oprah Winfrey Network now. Even those of you that have ever heard me talk about Find Your Fierce, and I walk you through the Fierce framework. If you've watched, by the way, if you've missed any of the episodes, you can go onto my YouTube channel. It's here in Black Doctor too, but you can get it sooner, quicker, faster on my YouTube channel if you want, nrjnetwork.com. If you go to the Bankroll Your Brains Thursday section, you go through all the past episodes. And I need you to understand this. So I walked through the Fierce framework probably months ago when I talked about aligning your purpose with your paycheck. And here's the thing about Fierce. I was watching Beyonce years ago, must have been like 10 at this point, and I was watching her. I would say I was having a little bit of a hater moment, but I was full on jealous because you need to know if I could sing, baby, she'd have a run for her money. But anyway, as I'm watching Beyonce, what God drops in my spirit is you have fears too. Lord, this is you talking to me while I'm watching Beyonce, right? So when I got over that, what I began to realize is Beyonce created Sasha Fierce at a time in her career when it was time for her to go after her next level. So she had been in a group with other young women for years. Y'all know the story, Destiny's Child, right? And even after they finally got a record deal, two left. Got new two, one of those left. She went through all of that. And yet, by the way, if you've never read the lyrics to the song I'm a Survivor, I want to encourage you to Google it. Don't sing it. Listen to the words. I'm a survivor. I'm going to make it. I will not stop. I will work harder. Everything she did in her career was a risk. And then came the biggest one. Now, for her to go to her next level, it required her to go solo. And she was scared. And understand, your faith doesn't get activated until you're in the face of fear. So, in order for her to conjure up the faith she knew she needed, the courage, she made up Sasha Fierce so she could stand in the full power of who she was purposed to be on that stage by herself. And what I realized in that moment when God dropped that in my spirit is all of us have the same propensity to go after our own fears. Is there's a fight to be you. Now, to give you more context, and I'm going to give you three things you got to know and do to fight. But let me give you another story. I have notes off. You see me looking down, I have notes all over the place. So, there's a story in the Bible of a man named Abraham. I'm going to read a portion of it. The thing I think is interesting is when the story first starts, his name is Abram. And as he goes out and enlarges his territory, goes into the unknown, when he goes and takes the risk, God changes his name to Abraham. See, so I said Abram, God changes his name because he's no longer the same person. So Genesis 12, 1 through 2 says this, and this is I see that red, that's the Bible verse. I put this here so I didn't have to pick up my whole Bible. And I usually have my Bible next to me, and I don't know where I put it today. But anyway, now the Lord said to Abram, get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house to a land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. That's all in the same context of those two verses. How many times he said, I'll make you a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. God said it over and over and over and over again. Why do you think God said that over and over again? Because number one, God knew it was scary for Abraham to leave what he knew. See, your comfort and your conviction can never coexist. So if you're staying comfortable, that means you're not growing. If you're staying comfortable, you're living in mediocre. If you're staying comfortable, you're not challenging yourself. And God is always going to challenge you to grow. Ask Beyonce, ask Oprah, ask Tyler Perry, ask anybody you greatly admire. They all have had to take a risk. And Abraham leaving what he knew was risking. And so as you begin to look at where you are, as you begin to understand how to get clear on what your purpose is, and those of you that don't understand what your purpose is, Find Your Fierce is a great way to help you. And by the way, fellas, don't miss your blessing. Find Your Fierce book is where you can buy that book. The book is a do because I have you do work in that book. I didn't anticipate offering that to you, so I don't have it here written. Let me write it real quick. www. I find your. That's how you know I'm being rogue, right? Fierce book for those of you. And the reason I wrote this book in the first place is because I know what it's like to not know what to do. I know what it's like to feel stuck. And I'm going to give you 3 steps, but let me tell you what it was like when God called me out of my comfort zone. So many of you know I've told my Bankroll Your Brilliance story, but I don't know if I've told my purpose story. So I've been doing this work since 1993. And when I got called into the unknown, it was a time that I was working in the career I've dreamed about since I was 7 years old. So at the time, I worked in the entertainment industry. Back then, I worked for Viacom. It's the largest cable network. We had an outreach to over 89 million homes on a weekly basis. And then from there, I worked on the number one TV show on Fox. I worked in casting on the number one TV show on Fox. And then from there, I worked in an entertainment group with an entertainment group. And what we generated, or what we produced, generated over $12.6 billion a year. So I'm telling you that because I was playing big. I loved every minute of everything I did. Plus, I was going to all the hot Hollywood parties. I was bumping elbows with all the stars, people you've seen on TV and looked at on films. So I was living the dream. But can I tell you, in the dark of the night when I was by myself, I began to be tormented by my dream because I felt like something was missing. And I didn't understand how I could feel like something's missing when I absolutely loved my daytime job. And yet, I still felt like there was a hole in my soul. And I don't know if that's you've ever been at this place or maybe you're in this place right now. And so every time I tried to talk to one of my girlfriends about what I was feeling, they were saying stuff like, Nicole, are you crazy? Didn't you just go to this premiere? And didn't you just work on this movie? And didn't you just, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm totally confused by what I feel, and no one understands how I feel. It's just me and God. And I'm praying and praying and praying and praying, and I hear nothing. And so little did I know that my breakthrough was coming. One of my girlfriends invites me to volunteer at a program at our church on a Friday night. And as I started working with young women that night, as their eyes lit up, my heart lit up, and I realized, oh my God, this is the thing I've been looking for. But this thing, I didn't know what to call it. There was no such thing as a coach. This was 1993. I couldn't see how anybody would be banging down any doors to do this work. I didn't even know how I was going to get a paycheck from it. But the one thing I knew for sure is my soul was alive. And so I had a decision to make. Do I live in OPP, other people's perception, or do I go after this thing that's been rumbling in my soul? And so I took a risk. I went after this thing. Now, again, this was before I even had a name for it. And so in that moment, there are three things that I had to do. Go grab your pen if you don't already have one. And these three things really helped me actually become the highest and best version who God created me to be. Now I'm still in the work. I'm still, but I'm clear and uncompromising about who I am called, who I've called been called to be, who God put me on this earth to be, and who God has put me on this earth to serve. And so with that said, you got to do three things. You ready? Number one, I'm going to do them in order. You got to do an environment check. Now, you've heard the quote, you are the sum of the five people that are closest to you. Now, here's what I need you to understand, my friend, is when you are being called to do something that you can't even describe, when being called to do something you have never done before. Even listen, I was already successful, right? I was already making big checks. I was already buying all the shoes I wanted. I was already going to all the hot parties. I was living a dream. And so there were friends that talked about me like she lost her mind. Now I'm clear, even the friends that I still have to this day probably thought I had lost my mind, but they said things like, okay, well, I'm gonna just support you. They probably thinking, okay. But the ones that talked about me behind my back started rumors. You've got to be clear and do an environment check because listen, people are either making healthy deposits in your life, in your purpose, in your spirit, in your soul, or they're making withdrawals. And every negative comment withdraws something from your spirit. Every time somebody talks about you, hear about it, withdraws something from your spirit. And if you're going after something you've never done before, you can't afford to have anything withdrawing at that point. You need as many deposits as you can get. I often call this who's on your team. And I talk about this actually in my first book, Define Your Way. This is my fourth book, by the way. And in that book, I talked about there are six various people on your team. Let me see if I can remember them by heart. I just happen to have them over here. Ha, 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 yay. So there's six people you got to have on your team. One, you need a coach. Listen, if you're doing something you've never done before, you're going to be required to use a part of your gift you've never even knew existed. And a coach is going to help you move it forward. Just think about if you're looking at an NBA team, the coach gives the plays and the strategy. The coach is then on the sidelines ready to say, oh, wait, hold on. I'm going to tell you where you went wrong on that play. And you need that because that coach can recalibrate the plays when they see things aren't working, right? You need someone that can see outside of you. Listen, you have blind spots. If you don't understand that you have blind spots, like when you're driving and they tell you, even though you got a rearview mirror, you know what I'm talking about, right? This is like my rearview mirror is right here, right? I still could look in that rearview mirror, but they still tell you to turn your head all the way over and make sure nobody's there. Why do they do that? Because the mirror can't get everything, just like you can't get everything about you. There are parts of your DNA that you will overlook because every day you wake up, you on autopilot. So you need to understand you need someone that has an outside experience of you that is 10 steps ahead of you in the journey that can teach you. Now, let me tell you the difference between a coach and a mentor. See, a mentor is someone that already has a relationship with you. They might fit you in for a coffee for 30 minutes once every 3 to 6 months. You can't strategize having a 30-minute coffee every now and then. But a coach is someone that has a contractual relationship with you. They're going to work with you to get to a predictable result. And they're going to say, hey, we're going to meet once every other week or once a month or whatever you design together so that you work to get to that end that is agreed upon. So you need a coach, not a mentor. Now, a coach can become a mentor And listen, when people ask me to mentor them, if you're not been my client, I can't help you. I know nothing about your business. Let's be clear. You need a coach, not a mentor. Anyway, I can go on about that. The second thing you need is an accountability partner. This is someone that's in the journey with you that you can run things past. Someone that is an entrepreneur. Because listen, somebody that's not an entrepreneur cannot help you. I'm gonna leave that there. Third, you need counselors. This is a piece of people to just listen. And by the way, some of these may be one person. Like my accountability partner is my counselor because she listens, and then I can tease stuff out with her too, right? So you need a coach, you need accountability partners, you need counselors, you need confronters, people that are going to tell you the truth. You have so many people, especially when you start doing well. This is what happened to Michael Jackson, I think, by the way, is you have what I call yes people. I don't need yes people in my corner. I need people that are going to tell me like it TI is, right? Have you ever heard that TI is? It doesn't even spell out this, it's THIS, but whatever. I need people to tell me the truth. Right? Next thing you need, now next two do not have to be entrepreneurs. You need cheerleaders. People that are so excited for you, like, yeah, I love it, just excited. You need that because there are times where it will be hard because you're fighting to do the thing God has called you to do. Again, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. It ain't gonna be easy, but it's always worth it. And the last one you need is a sister friend. Now, I call this my happy hour crew. The ones that you can just make you laugh and just have a good time. When you don't want to talk about business, you just want to let your hair down and again, have a good time. So those are the 6 people you need on your team, but there's a bonus player. That's not required. It's your mate. Now you got to be mindful. Your purpose is not your mate's purpose. So stop trying to make people be a part of your business that ain't meant to be. Your friends aren't called to your purpose either. Now, sometimes there are couples that do things together, and I get that. But to give you a concrete example of this, and this is only step one, I'm gonna walk you through 2 and 3 in a second. To give you a concrete example of this, I remember getting ready to speak on the stage. And when I'm getting ready to speak, I'm really trying to be zen and let God pour in. Because even though I have an outline, God sometimes shows up and shifts everything I'm going to talk about. And so I got to be really, really, I'm trying to meditate. So my phone rings. I see it's my husband because I know he knows I'm speaking. I'm thinking it's an emergency. I go, hello, and realize he didn't want anything. I said, baby, I can't talk to you right now. And I hang up just because I'm trying to stay focused. And so, and within seconds, I get a text. Here's what he said back to me. He said, I apologize. I realize it's your job to pour into all the people you're getting ready to speak to, and it's my job to pour into you. Woo! And then I started crying. So, when I went on stage, that's the first thing I talked about. But here's what I need you to understand. Again, your mate is not his responsibility or her for the fellas. It's not your mate's responsibility to grow your business, but they should support it. Okay. So do an environment check. You want to make sure everyone that is around you is either pouring into your business, pouring into your purpose, pouring into your spiritual, mental, physical growth. And if they're not, it's time to reevaluate. So that's number one you got to do in order to fight. Because if you're already in a fight, you need people that are playing your team that are going to help you win. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, you've got to get clear on your DNA, your distinct natural ability. This is your dominion. So many people overlook it. There are areas of your brilliance that you will not understand. This is why I say all the time, you've got to hire a coach. And I'm saying that because many of you guys have heard my story of how I failed in my business for 17 years. It wasn't until I hired a coach and she saw in my blind spots, I started generating revenue overnight. But you've got to be committed to grow it, your DNA, get clear on it, and then grow it, be consistent, and then really understand there are a group of people that need you. So you got to be committed to serve that group. So as you cultivate your DNA, as you're consistent with it, as you're clear on it, the third thing you've got to do in order to really, really fight to be you, is you've got to grow your faith. You've got to increase your faith. Because listen, your faith doesn't get activated until you're in the face of fear. I said that 3 minutes ago. But your fear, you don't get afraid until you're playing bigger than you've ever played before, right? I remember Stephen Furtick said the biggest enemy of faith isn't really fear, it's familiarity. Because you're familiar and you want to stay comfortable. It's like being in that bed in the morning. Like, I don't know about you, but in the morning when I have to get up and work out, oh, that bed feels so good the last 10 minutes. Because it's familiar, it feels good, it's comfortable. And I said this earlier, I'm going to say it again. Your comfort and your conviction can never coexist. Ultimately, why there's a fight is because God is waiting for you to stand in the full power of why he created you. Listen, God gives us DNA, but then he also gives us free will. He's not going to make you do the thing you were purposed to do. And when you do that thing, abundance comes back to you. And that's that whole multiply conversation. And I've talked to you guys about Bankroll Your Brilliance. So those of you that need support, I have I have a gift for you. So this week I created something called the Slay Summit. Let me put it up on the screen. So I'm interviewing 11 CEO women, entrepreneurial women that are in the journey just like all of you. And I love that they've been telling their stories of fear, of having to make shifts, of going through divorce and still fighting to do the thing they know that they were born and purpose to do. So you can listen to the replays if you missed any of our days this week. Where you go, slaysummit.com. You have until Sunday to listen to the replays. I want to encourage you to go and do that. Let me tell you why I even did the Slay Summit. Because when I was at a place in my own business where I was failing, even when I was starting in my purpose journey, I had nobody to talk to. I didn't know where to go. I didn't have any examples out there of women that had done what I was trying to do. And here in the Slay Summit, not only do you have 11 women that are crushing it, and all of them in different industries, some pastors, but listen, some first ladies, and even the first ladies that interview have their own platform beside their husband. Love it. I had no examples out there for me. And they're all women of color. They're all African American women. Come on, Black Doctor. So join me, slaysummit.com. Listen, it's always my honor and privilege to be here with you every Thursday for Bankroll Your Branch Thursdays. Do me a favor, below, tell me the value you got out of today. Tell me one thing you're committed to doing to fight to be you. Tell me one thing you're committed to doing to push yourself beyond where you are. Because let me explain to you. When I come here on these Thursdays, I'm not here for who you already are. I'm here for what you have not yet completed. I'm here for who you have not yet become. I'm here from Abram to Abraham, right? As I share with you in Genesis 12:1 and 2. So, with that, again, I want to hear from you. I want to hear your comments, your insight. I want to hear your takeaways from this episode. Again, go to slaysummit.com. I look forward to seeing many of you join us for the summit. And with that said, listen, the real reason I do what I'm doing is, of course, this is what I'm called to do, but ultimately, see, God invested gifts and talents in each of us. He knew the exact time you would be born. He knew you'd be here now, and he knew the exact way he would use your gift. And because of that, he invested the specific DNA, distinct natural ability that's in you. So my question to you is, what's God's return on his investment in you? What's his return? I want you to give God a great return. So do the work. Again, three things you got to do is do an environment check. Look at who's around you, who's on your team. Are they adding to you? Are they taking away? Listen, are they on your team or are they playing for the opposing team? Right. Second is you've got to get clear on your DNA, not just clear, but then you've got to cultivate it. And then you've got to literally be consistent in it. And the one thing I forgot to say with consistency, I see so many people thinking this is taking too long. And so they quit. And you got to realize there's something called seed time and harvest. When you plant a seed, you got to water it and water it and water it before the harvest comes. So many of you, the consistency of watering that gift is what's going to help it grow. Where I am is because I've consistently watered my gift for the last 28 years. Was it always easy? No. Has it been worth it? Yes. Because I'm beginning to see all the fruits come. And it's because I have been clear and uncompromising, never giving up. And then last but not least, you've got to increase your faith. That's why I'm here with you every Thursday. I'm going to give you some Jesus. I'm going to give you tools and insight because you need both. You need both ultimately to live as the highest and best version of who God created you to be. So that's today's episode. It's always my honor and privilege. Again, be reminded two things. Number one, enroll in the Slay Summit. Mhm. Grab the book if you need it. Findyourfiercebook.com, right? And then comment below the one thing you got out of today's episode. All right. So with that, I'll see you next Thursday for another episode of Bankroll Your Brains Thursdays. My name is Nicole Roberts Jones, the Bankroll Your Brains expert. Honored and privileged to be here to pour into you. I'll see you next week.